Yeah, I was so fucking shocked.
What DAW do you use?
FL12.
What do you think about the legalization of weed?
Doesn't faze me too much. Like, I'd rather support like the homies. I only bought it because I can now.
What do you have, a 70% sativa?
18%. Everyone always used to get indicas, and it was just like, it just always put me on my ass, and I always went to bed right after. So I'd really rather not. Like, if weed can keep me like
Stimulated.
at least stimulated, like awake and like wanting to do something, like fucking nice. There's a lot of artists I know that don't smoke anymore, don't even drink anymore. They just keep a clear mind, and like their art is always really good, but there's always the artists too that use heavy drugs.
Yeah.
The art is still good. It's like, you just make it how you fucking make it. It's just all in your fucking mind. Like, after I'm done a track or something,
just happened.
I'll think about it and be like, I just autopilot it. Yeah. I'm just in this loop now where I know kind of like
what to do
after each thing. It just creates itself.
When you do it all the time too, almost every time I call you, you're fucking making music.
Whenever I have time, especially now that I'm working, I get Sunday off and usually Monday off, so I try to just use that as much as I fucking can on just trying to get some out. And it's nice too, because if you produce every fucking day and you're constantly pushing yourself to make it, your creativity like starts to dull out. I'm at the point where I'm kind of comfortable with my production, so I can like wait a week, and once I do come back, I make like a fucking banger. And it's just nice to get all that creativity out at once rather than always pushing it.
So what DAW do you use?
FL12 and Reason 5.
Okay.
I wanted to learn Ableton, but it's just too boring to me, honestly. It just looks boring. But I know a lot of good producers that use it and they live by it, but it's like, DAWs don't even matter, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't. Don't. It's just which one, I guess, like, you dig your workflow
whatever
better.
Whatever you know how to use. If you know where everything is, obviously, like, you can use the DAW. Like, obviously, if I could spend maybe a month on Ableton, I'd probably get it down. Like,
it's like, is it worth it?
I think it's actually always worth it. It's just kind of like different, like, workflows, too.
You learn something new probably from different softwares.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know there's I know the VSTs and the plugins are different in Ableton compared to, like, FL, whereas, like, FL is kind of just, there's a lot more visual in FL than, like, Ableton. Ableton's just kind of, like, just looks stale. Ableton, I feel like, is more for people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And FL is good for, like, if you know what you're doing and if you're a beginner, too. It's, like, it's best of both worlds with that one. I guess that's why I started on it.
Tell me about your workflow with your mouse and your keyboard.
If I'm creating melodies with my mouse, I'm never usually creating like crazy stuff. Like maybe I'll put in a chord and then follow it with another chord, maybe for a whole bar. And then if I know what notes those chords are on, or like if I know what notes are being played, then I just tap those notes in above it and just kind of create a melody with that. And it kind of just creates itself at that point too, which is kind of crazy. I've made actually a few interesting songs just all original. It was pretty cool, actually.
Interesting. Do you know any music theory?
None. I know fucking nothing about music theory. I know it might be hard to believe it, but I literally, half the stuff I use in my DAW I don't know anything about. Like, kind of like, if I hear to my ear, or if I hear to my head or something, I can just fucking put that shit in, and I can kind of like get the rhythm going. I think I'm a little like tone deaf when it comes to like my subs. When I stretch my samples, it goes out of tune, obviously, right? So I gotta write within that new tune that I don't quite know what it is. And there's ways of figuring it out, but it's kind of tedious and just annoying. So I kind of just use my ear as best as I fucking can. But sometimes it doesn't always like... That's the kind of shit that makes me hate that song in a week, you know? Yeah, a lot of songs I have out right now, I fucking hate. I just hate most of my songs, honestly.
Well, I guess that's just like how a lot of artists think like that.
I think it is just, it's just part of the whole creativity thing.
Yeah, and I guess like pushing yourself to be better and shit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what was I gonna say? I was gonna fucking ask you something. Oh yeah, like your lo-fi kind of style. Like where...
That's
like,
just, when I do lo-fi, that's kind of just when I'm like really bored. When I'm making lo-fi, or even with my funk, it's, the song solely survives off the sample you pick. If you can't have like a good sample, it's just really
like that carries it kind of, or
the sample carries it. It's always the sample that fucking carries it. Like you gotta at least know how to make a good drum beat over top of it, like make it sound solid. But it's like if you don't have like the ear for like that good sample that like you know people are gonna fucking love, then it's kind of just you're kind of just making another tune. You know? That's why every like track that I put out, I've always tried to look for that sample that I know
That's
people
hot.
are gonna fucking like that fucking that loop.
Do you use ever like samples along with that sample that might be less like romantic to the ear, you know what I mean? Like they're just like not the like maybe the best, but you use them as backing or you use them to like, you know what I mean? Something like fill it out.
Not really. Like usually if I have one sample, I keep that one sample. There's been one time when I made another sample on top of another one from two totally different tracks that I never actually thought would work. But I used like a bass line from one sample and I used like a melody from another one and somehow it worked. And I actually had my buddy rap on it, which was probably one of my favorite songs for a fucking minute.
Who are some of the dudes that have rapped on your shit? They homies or
there's only one artist in Winnipeg that I fuck with, and that's Aaron.
Okay.
And that's Lemon.
Okay.
That he's been my homie since grade 1, and he's honestly like my favorite rapper. One of the only rappers in fucking Winnipeg that I know of so far. Like, there's a couple others but I don't really know him that well. But Aaron's just the only one that he has that sound, you know. He just knows how to spit shit.
He's got a good energy on stage too.
He's got a real good energy, and it's shocking because he's really quiet and like not like crazy like in person or anything like that, unless he's drinking, of course. But.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about the song that you got the sample from, and was the piano sample and like the singing from the same track, or?
Yeah, it's all in the same track here. It's actually Diana Panton and I Love Him. And then I do a copy paste.
So this is without that main sample?
Yeah, it's not even that last song anymore.
Whoa,
totally
but same drums and shit?
Same drums, it's just a totally new song.
Do you do all your mixing in what is this that you're using? Yeah,
Free Loops.
and Reason you use as well. Do you use them for different things then, or?
I won't use Reason for anything else other than my synths.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to get an idea,
they do have some good synths in there.
Oh my god, dude! Like.
Oh, like do you use like the Maelstrom or?
I use Maelstrom and I use the Thor. Because I use Reason for my dubstep. I don't use Reason for anything else.
Oh, okay.
Dubstep. This is what I started producing on. Like, I've never made beats before. That's why I like using it for, like, my synths. Because the synths just come out just so fucking gnarly. This is one I wrote with a synth. We'll do real simple shit like this. There's so many tracks that go unfinished, especially as an artist. It's insane.
Oh yeah, I know. You have to like. One thing I remember that the engineer dude that was like teaching me, he was like saying like you should try to at least like don't move on from 3 projects. Always like if you're like moving past like 3 projects, like you should probably just try to stick it out with one of them because you're getting too lazy.
If I'm in the mood to produce, I'll go through a project. I'll start working on a track. Trash it. I'll start working on another one. I'll trash it, and by the third one, it's like that's where it kind of just starts to. I'll find what kind of starts linking up at that point.
Yeah, one thing is like, you also have to know when to stop if it's like not working out and like move on to the next one because maybe you're just like wasting your time kind of with that beat, like where you went with it or whatever. But at the same time, like if it's happening over 3 times, that's just kind of like a number he put out. Like you're probably like just. You need to like go like work through this roadblock or whatever and like figure out what's
kind of like, because if you're in that mood, then you know something's in there that wants to come out. It just really wants to put something on paper. So it's like if you kind of just stick it out long enough, then you'll actually you'll feel good about yourself afterwards because you'll even if you don't create something, like if you don't finish something that day, you'll come up with something that you felt like really good about. And that's kind of really just all that matters at this point is when you're making music. It's just as long as you fucking like what you just fucking made, not like fucking hating yourself every fucking track that you do.
Yeah.
The less you do in a track is the more you're doing in a track. That's what I found. Like you can sit there and add shit into your track all fucking day, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna actually like
make it better
you're
necessarily.
not gonna make it better at any point because you'll probably just be throwing random shit in there that's just gonna sound like garbage. Whereas if I know like huge songs that are just simple, just fucking here's a synth, here's some drums. It's just they know how to make it sound good.
Like 3 sounds.
That's what That's what majority of people like because there's so many fucking simple-minded people out there. It's like you can make whatever the hell you want as long as it sounds good.
There's like tons of beats like that, but like one that comes to mind is that old, like I'm pretty sure it was super basic, Yin Yang Twin song. Oh man, like it's like Whisper or something. I don't know, just like those tracks that are just basically drums and like one sound. Like sometimes they don't even have a bass line and shit.
There was literally no melody in that new Kanye and Lil Pump song.
I haven't heard it. I didn't know they had a track together. That's funny.
It's actually fucking.
Is it decent?
It's obviously
like well made, yeah.
Incorporated fucking.
Yeah.
It's catchy, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you should put it on.
You're such a fucking hoe. I love it. You're such a
A lot of people that sample music don't necessarily have the ear that, like, they obviously have this ear that they know that they like that sample, but do they know other people are gonna like that sample?
Yeah. You know? What's some of the music like you tend to gravitate to when you sample?
Jazz.
Okay.
All day fucking jazz.
Yeah.
And then put fucking like new age rap on top of that jazz, which just makes it just 10 times better, you know what I mean? Old with new just tie together so nicely.
Like what kind of things like would you consider new age that you add on it?
Not so much new age, but like with the last track I showed on my FL, I used a Soulja Boy tune, which is like he's not around anymore, but at one point he was like popping and he was like this thing in this different era that we all fucking lived in, and it's just like it brings you back to that almost, you know what I mean? That's what I fucking love about it.
What about your drums?
Trap drums, just regular ass trap drums. It's the way you can make it sound, because you can make like a tune sound like an old fucking what's his face, like Timbaland or something. Like his beats were always just super like just crazy, but it's like it was the same thing throughout the whole track. It was just a loop, right? Just now it's like you can make these new drum patterns and just the way you can like manipulate your sub bass with tracks, because there's a huge difference between like a funk track that I'll make and like a beat that a rapper will just rap over. The beats that I make are meant more for listening rather than a beat that someone is looking to rap on. When I put an acapella on my track, I think of it more as a synth I'm putting on top of my track.
Yeah. Is that what you're going for, like when you add certain filters over the voices
like when the vocals
shit?
aren't like really like they aren't out there. They're just kind of like in the background. They're just kind of like filling in the track with this sound that you know. Just fucking take out the lows, take out some more highs, and just have this little box of fucking just a little bit of mids. I want the sample I'm using that I know people are gonna like to be popping out a little bit more, and I want them to pay attention to that in the drums rather than the vocal. Like this, honestly, right now is still the beginning. Like I just kind of slapped a bunch of shit in there right now. What I have a lot of fun with is just the random effects I'll put in there. Like I'll go through some of my samples here just so you get like an idea of like the things I use.
Are these from like movies and shit or?
Here we go.
Just random shit.
Oh, okay.
Come across.
Yeah.
Oh what?
Windows error.
The whole funk idea is supposed to be a future throwback. Yeah, these Memphis, like you ever listen to like Memphis rap?
You ever listen to Scarecrow?
Oh yeah. 3-6 Mafia in its prime, man. Like, that's crazy fucking shit, man. Because like sometimes I like to take those loops and I like to just I like to put my own drums on top of it instead.
Okay.
I use side chaining, so like every time my drum comes in, it's gonna duck volume of the sample. wherever you have a sound hitting, wherever you want to duck volume, just duck the fucking volume on it. Like of the sample, like say you have a snare hitting on something and you have something else like on top of it.
Okay.
Duck the volumes of whatever those are to let your snare pop through. I use a limiter. But yeah, essentially what the sidechain is doing is that purple stuff is showing you where the volume of the sound
has been reduced.
Yeah, you can see that the kick is coming in and it's pushing those volumes down.
Do you ever just from sampling some rap shit like just have like a fucking flow in your head ever, even though you don't rap?
Honestly, I started writing something this morning and it was the dumbest thing. It's literally just 4 fucking words and I thought of it in my head and I thought it was cool. What was it? Autos and Matics. I got the killing schematics or something. The dumbest thing. I don't even know why I thought about it. I was listening to a track and I just wanted to come up with something.
That's dope. And then you just have something else that comes after it and then you just start becoming a rapper and you're like, fuck the whole producing thing.
Yeah, like here's a few tracks I liked actually today that I thought I might be able to get something out of, but I don't know yet. I won't know until I like actually start doing something with it. Mm-hmm. So like I heard this. And I kind of already knew, like, that's it. Like, I can make a beat on that. Like, I could probably even start it up right now, just quickly. This right here is the perfect loop. So I'm going to want to make it fill these 2 bars. So if I go around, like I want to stretch it, but I don't want to stretch it too much, and I don't want to stretch it too little. I want to get the perfect stretch. To perfect loopage. Perfect speed for some dope drums to get put on. It's so unorthodox, but usually I'll try to find a nice vocal that goes on it already.
Okay.
Like I want to hear something that just sounds dope on it already. We can start off with trying to find some dope Memphis stuff to go on it, like that Scarecrow one.
Do you have to like time his shit then with it?
Yeah, I do essentially the exact same thing. Take out the lows. So yeah, I can see hit. That's supposed to be 1 bar right there. So I'm gonna pull this right up to like that, because I can just see it visually, you know.
Does that just time stretch it?
Yeah, it's just stretching it. Much, yeah. I like to just chill and listen to that for a bit. Just try to hear like a drum beat in my head or something, you know? Has some like nice like mids in it still. We've used loop points like on like if I were to just cut out a piece like right here and just have like a little bit and not have all this other shit going on. Then you can like pretty much hold a note down and it'll just be straight sub for as long as you hold it until you take it off. So now we're just gonna find the key.
Oh, okay.
If I go to edit and then go into regions and then detect pitch regions, it's gonna tell me exactly what this sub is at, and that's a G sharp. If I like right click on the sample itself, and I go to edit, it's gonna pull up this Edison, which is like basically you can record things in it, and it'll bring up this sample that I just like that I want to find the key of, and then I'll right click on it, go to regions, and detect pitch regions, and it tells you exactly what it is. And you can do that with literally anything, like any sample you have, you can just find the key of it like that.
Where does it tell you on there?
In this corner right
Oh, okay.
On this piano roll, I'll go to G sharp. So C, D, E, F, G, right on the sharp. So now the sub will always be in key, whatever. connected at the bottom here. It's got like these knobs to like whatever like sample is in that specific mixer.
Yeah.
So if I take the kick in this one and the sample which is in this one, and I just connect it with this, it's gonna have this volume knob here. So if I just take it all the way down, the kick's like technically connected to it. So when I pull up a limiter, turn the ceiling up just cause, and I go to the compressor and the side chain here, I put it on 1. And if I pull the threshold down, now it's gonna start triggering the
kick?
it's controlling the
Oh, like the velocity or whatever of like the sample? Oh.
yeah.
It kind of cuts it out, yeah.
But the snare is just not enough right now. So we're gonna put a snare on it.
Bro, I can't wait for Scarecrow.
So he's gonna come in. After I put the snare on, then I'll extend it a little bit more. And as I'll just keep extending it further and further and adding more shit every so often. The clap's not even like a final thing, it's just kind of a placer for now. Yeah, see, if you have it too low, the snare from the other track comes through too much, but like, now I want to put the clap in, I'll side chain the clap to it, so I want every time the clap hits, I want it to pop through that sample too. So I'll just do the same thing, connect it, but I want to turn that volume down, add another limiter. Basically the clap is cutting out that song's snare. But it hits really quick, so whatever sound comes after that snare is connected to this clap almost.
Okay.
So that reverb from that snare is now part of this clap.
Nice.
Change the pitch a There's a little buzzing behind it though. Another key thing I love to do with my tracks is Foley. Do you know Foley? Like Foley sounds?
No.
That's basically like live recordings of just like that's Foley. Like the quality of that in a track, like just random shit like this, oh, it just makes it so just sweet and tender. There's people who can just make the dumbest things that I can't actually even comprehend, that inspire me a lot and have pushed me to create some weird shit, which I respect them so much for.
What are you using as a hi-hat?
I don't even know. It's like my master here is peaking at like 6. Like if I take a limiter, turn up the ceiling so like it has max headroom, and I take the saturation about -2, it'll never pass -2 decibels, right? So if I crank this gain, it'll never pass fucking 0 decibels.
Yeah.
If you mix quiet, it's easier to bring everything up in volume rather than having everything fucking loud and then you run out of room for other frequencies. Now everything is in the same frequency. Now I just fucking jack it up till it sounds loud and clean.
Till my fingers blue. I like Tom Honest till my fingers blue. 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 I like Tom Honest till my fingers blue. Till my fingers blue. I just fought this bitch inside a Bentley.